We have with us Troy Carter, who is the manager, among other people, of Lady Gaga, and has really, I think, emerged as probably the most social media and tech savvy, one of the most social media and tech savvy people in not just the music business, but in terms of any business that involves brands communicating with a mass audience. And I really wanted Troy to get a sense from you as to, what's been your journey in understanding how to use social media to communicate with a large community.
Well, for us, it came out of basic necessity because, we went through a point where probably about 4 or 5 years ago, it's become really hard to get music played on the radio if you're an up-and-coming act. Specifically in America, it's hard for a radio station to take chances. And at that time, Facebook had began to go wider and outside of colleges, and Twitter was on the uptick, and YouTube was on the uptick, and we saw the use of technology as an alternative to reach audiences opposed to radio. And what we found out is that it was really about discovery, and now that's just the route that we go. So instead of us going straight to radio or straight to MTV or BET with music, we would much rather build a fan base online and let it grow organically and let people feel like they discovered it before it goes wide to the mainstream.
And with Lady Gaga, I mean, you very much started out one radio station at a time, and then spreading the word through social media. Did you?
Yeah, and it wasn't. I would love to say that was a planned strategy for the way it happened, but with Gaga, it just so happened that Canada had become a big market for us. We really grew it through the nightclub circuit alongside of social media. So it wasn't just an online thing. We were doing a lot of groundwork as well. And then once it got picked up in Canada, just through proximity, a radio station in Buffalo started playing it. And that's where, it started catching on in America from there.
And just spread across the country.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you've now launched this platform called Little Monsters, which has got something behind it called Backplane, which is a company that you co-founded. I mean, tell us a bit about what the state of the art is in terms of you have 1 million people signed up to the Little Monsters website. I mean, how does it work? What are you giving fans that they didn't have before?
Well, the whole idea behind it, Gaga called me a couple of years ago after she saw the Social Network movie. And she called me from the Sony screening room in New York, and she said, I had this idea around creating a network for my fans. And I ended up calling a couple of my friends in Silicon Valley, and they said, send me your data. Let me see what your data looks like. And so I scraped together my Ticketmaster data and my website data and some other things that we had. And they called me back and they said, this is basically the worst crap I've ever seen. And we realized how data dumb we were because, up until this point, it was a huge disconnect between the music industry and the actual consumer. And for a while, and still now, the music industry operates as if iTunes or Walmart or Best Buy are the buyer. And, so there's a disconnect with the actual consumer and fan. So when a fan would go into the store and buy an album, you don't know whether they really even listen to the album. You don't know what songs they skipped. You don't know what other songs they bought while they were in music they bought while they were in the store. So in terms of real information, it was a lack of access to it. So the idea behind littlemonsters.com was to really create this community where it's all of the fans could gather together, because prior to us having Little Monsters, there was about 15 different Lady Gaga websites around the world that were language specific. And, because if in Korea you would have to have, a Korean site and so forth and so on. But, the first problem that we solved with littlemonsters.com was the translation, where we created real-time translation so fans from all over the world can talk to each other at the same exact time and not even know they were speaking in different languages. And then on top of it, to be able to sell our concert tickets through there, we're getting ready to enable the users to be able to stream music through there. So basically, this will be an all-encompassing site and really the central touch point for all things Lady Gaga.
And then you were saying that you were going to have a social element so that people would be able to find out who they were sitting next to at concerts and get to know them beforehand.
Exactly. So we'll be layering in features probably towards the next tour, because with this tour coming up so quick, we couldn't push all of the features right away. But yes, we're going to be doing lots of social ticketing. And one of the things we noticed just through my data collection consists of me walking around an arena, kind of looking at people and seeing who's at the concerts, what the demographic looks like. And one of the things we noticed was kids would buy one ticket to the show. So, we're giving people the ability to, if this person's buying one ticket and this person's buying one ticket and they have similar interests, let's pair them up so they'll be able to go to the concerts together. So just things like that.
And I guess what this is doing is fundamentally changing how Lady Gaga communicates with her fans. And I guess I'm interested in what you see the lessons being, both for someone who's a celebrity in today's age, or maybe a political leader, or even a regular brand. I mean, what's changed by this technology?
So what's important to me is that there are no intermediaries in that relationship. So in between that relationship. So where the music labels in the past have become the middleman in between that relationship, and then you have retailers and everybody else in the middle of that relationship. The idea behind this was that direct relationship, and where people, they'll think of Twitter as being able to have a direct relationship with your fans, but truth be told, it's really not a direct relationship, because for whatever reason, Twitter goes out of business or turns off the machine, that's not your data and that's not your relationship. So for us, it's about really being able to allow Gaga or any other artist to really own that relationship between them and the fans.
And does it change what's expected of them? I mean, in terms of her communication with them and how often she does it and what she's done? How do you create exclusivity in a relationship with a million?
So where she's been great at is it was important for us not to have littlemonsters.com sit on an island. So prior to us, launching, we sat down with Facebook and Sheryl Sandberg and some of the other technology companies just to make sure that our platform integrated into their platforms as well. Because, outside of being a Little Monster or a fan, you still, have your social graph and your friends in these other places that so what you share on this site is also shared throughout your social graph. So that was important as well.
And I mean, you've been involved in, I guess, just in the last couple of weeks in terms of two very different initiatives that have sort of really achieved extraordinary scale. I mean, one was the launch of the perfume brand. The other was this response that Lady Gaga had to being accused of having got fat in the press. I mean, if you just tell us about those two things and how the speed of what's happened is different to what you've seen in the past.
So what this does now, it gives you the ability to respond directly to your constituency. You're dealing directly with your fans, directly with your audience, and you're having a very intimate conversation. So when you ask how is it an intimate conversation amongst a million people, those people feel like a family. So they're talking to each other. So even when Gaga's not on the platform, which she basically lives on the platform now, but when she's not on, they communicate with each other. And they want to feel like they got the information first and they heard it directly from her. So, when the fragrance launched, even months before the commercials came out or anything else, she was already having that conversation with her fans about it. She was previewing it, and so they went along the journey. So they knew, so before the mainstream had, a real idea of when the launch was, the fan community already knew. So once it got on the shelves, it became one of the fastest female fragrances of all time, fastest selling, just because the fans felt engaged from the very beginning. And as far as the press came out with the story about, Gaga gained weight, and what she did, she turned it on its head, with this body revolution movement, where, I woke up the other morning and, to a ton of emails, from major media outlets around the world, asking about, what was happening, because Gaga posted a picture of herself in a bikini, and she challenged all of her fans, and not just her fans, but people from around the world, be true to yourself, show who you really are. So when you go on the site right now, you just see people, whether they were born with deformities, whether they're overweight, whether they're underweight, is them being proud of who they actually are. So to be able to curate something like that in your community, it's very powerful.
So she's kind of taken what Dove did over many years and done it overnight again with
overnight.
Yeah.
This isn't casting. This is about real people casting themselves at this point in real time.
Now we've got a few more minutes left, and I just wanted to get a sense of how you see all the technology change affecting the future of the music industry. I mean, obviously we've seen it be in the forefront of the disintermediation through peer-to-peer, through Apple and the iPhone, through Spotify and so forth. Where is it going to end up in 10 or 20 years' time?
You know what? It's the good thing about like the music industry, with the record label. The record labels are kind of like cockroaches, like and I mean that in
you mean the nicest way? Yeah.
I mean that in a loving way, where it could be the end of the world and everything's destroyed and they still survive, right?
There's still EMI.
So I'm not worried about the music labels, because they have a lot. Guess what? It's people are gonna listen to the Beatles, whether it's on MP3, whether it's on vinyl, 8-track, cassette, or whatever format comes. So, so as long as there's good music, I think there'll always be an industry for it. I just think it's important that we pay attention to the consumer and make, real-time adjustments and make it convenient to the consumers and at a price point that people can afford. Because I think what's gonna So my answer to the question about 20 years, I think the scale of music is going to be bigger than it's ever been when you can put a device in everyone's hands. So when everybody can experience music on their handset for something that they feel is affordable and it's unlimited, I think music is going to scale exponentially.
And what's the balance going to be between new artists and the back catalogue in a way, and to what extent is there going to be longevity of new artists coming in and being able to reinvent themselves and last in a world where I guess we just have already a massive back catalogue of fantastic material? I
think it'll be the same. I think if we look back 30 years ago, we had one-hit wonders then, and, we had great catalog then. And I think, I believe, true art comes from God. So I think all great artists are always going to exist.
So one last question really is just to ask you to predict, what's going to be the big breakthrough in either music or social media that we're going to be talking about in a year's time?
If I knew it, I'd invest in it today.
So what are you investing in today?
I can't. You know what? I haven't seen anything that. I've seen a few things that I've invested in that are great in terms of social music. So I'm an investor in Spotify and Songza and a couple of other companies, that are music centric. But in terms of pure disruption, I have yet to see the next generation of a disruptive music product.
And what about artists? I mean, you're behind Priyanka Chopra.
We just found, an incredible new group who I'm excited about called the Cook Brothers. So I think within the next...
The Koch brothers, no.
Cook.
The Koch brothers, okay.
Cook Brothers.
Look at this like the election.
Cook Brothers was when I was in hip hop. That's from 10 years ago I managed.
Well, that's a different set of Koch brothers.
Cook Brothers.
Okay. Anyway, well, look, this is so the Cook brothers. And what's the type of music?
It's really incredible. I think it's disruptive music. So we're going to debut those guys in January. So I'm excited about that.
Okay, well, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Troy Carter, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great, thanks.